Hi, my friends. Today I want to present you a new story. Enjoy watching it.
It seemed the foundation they built on lies could not withstand reality. As I leaned back, the faint sounds of the city outside, I whispered to no one in particular, "Here's to starting over." And with that, I closed the chapter on us, ready to write a new story, one that belonged solely to me. The night Yasmin accused me of betrayal was like being thrown into a storm I never saw coming. It started with the vibration of my phone, a string of missed calls from her. My heart tightened as I saw her name light up the screen again. Midnight calls weren't her style. I answered on the fourth ring. "Joseph," her voice was icy, trembling with something I couldn't quite place. "I'm coming over. Now." Before I could respond, the line went dead. The unease in my chest blossomed into dread. Yasmin was always composed, even in arguments. What could have upset her so much that she sounded like a stranger? 15 minutes later, the knock came, sharp and relentless. I opened the door to find her standing there, her face pale, her hand clutching her phone as though it were a lifeline. "What is this, Joseph?" she demanded, shoving the screen into my hands. I blinked at the image displayed. It showed me, or someone who looked like me, seated at a bar with a woman draped over my shoulder, her lips dangerously close to my ear. The room spun for a second. It was familiar, yet not. "Yasmin, this isn't what it looks like." I started, but she cut me off. "You mean to tell me this isn't you?" Her voice cracked, her knuckles white around the phone. "Of course not," I protested. "I'd never even seen this woman. Where did you get this?" Her laugh was cold, laced with disbelief. "Does it matter? The proof is right here. I trusted you, Joseph," I thought. Her words faltered, but her anger didn't. Before I could say anything else, the door burst open behind her. I barely had time to register the figures rushing in, her father and two brothers, their faces twisted with fury. "What did you do to my sister, you snake?" her eldest brother Karim shouted, shoving me back against the wall. "Wait, stop!" I yelled, trying to shield myself as fists rained down on me. Each blow felt like a landslide. They were relentless, their anger blinding them to reason. Yasmin stood frozen by the door, tears streaming down her cheeks. "Please, stop!" she finally cried, her voice breaking, but her father silenced her with a single glare. "You don't get to beg for him," he spat. "He disrespected our family and we'll deal with it our way." When they finally stepped away, I collapsed onto the floor covered in bruises and abrasions. My ribs throbbed with every shallow breath. Yasmin's brothers flanked her father as they turned to leave, their message clear. Her father paused at the door. "You're lucky this is all we're doing," he growled. "If I hear you've gone near Yasmin again, there'll be worse." And then they were gone, leaving me broken in the ruins of my apartment. I tried to lift myself, but the pain rooted me to the spot. My gaze drifted to Yasmin's phone, which she had dropped in her hurry to leave. With trembling fingers, I picked it up, opening the message thread. The image was sent anonymously. My heart skipped as I noticed something, a timer stamp in the corner. It didn't match the night in question. I wasn't even in town then. The realization hit me like a second wave of assault. Someone had staged this, but who and why? I spent the next day nursing my bruises, both physical and emotional. My ribs screamed with every breath, and my mind churned with unanswered questions. Who had sent that picture to Yasmin? Why go to such lengths to destroy us? Sitting in my dimly lit apartment, I turned the phone Yasmin over in my hands. As I scrolled through her messages, a strange thread caught my eye. A conversation with an unsaved number. "Make sure he looks guilty," one message read. "Trust me, she'll believe it," the reply said. My breath itched. This wasn't just a misunderstanding, it was deliberate. Someone wanted Yasmin to think I had betrayed her. But who? Who wrote those texts from her cell phone? The next message made my blood run cold. "I'll be at the cafe tomorrow to finalize." Same time. The cafe? A meeting? I couldn't sit idle anymore. Pain or no pain, I had to know the truth. The following afternoon, I found myself at a corner table in the bustling cafe. The air was thick with the aroma of freshly brewed coffee, but I couldn't taste or smell anything. My attention was fixed on the entrance, waiting for someone, anyone, who looked out of place. Half an hour passed before she walked in, Yasmin's mother, Elena. She was poised as always, her designer handbag resting elegantly on her arm. She scanned the room, then moved toward a man sitting near the window. I recognized him immediately, a photographer Yasmin and I had once hired for a family event. He handed her an envelope, and they exchanged a few hushed words before she left as swiftly as she had arrived. My heart thundered in my chest. Yasmin's own mother was behind this. The betrayal was staggering, but I needed proof. I caught up with the photographer as he stepped outside. "Tom," I called, my voice steady despite the storm brewing inside me. He turned, startled. "Joseph, what are you doing here?" "I should ask you the same thing," I said, stepping closer. "Why are you meeting Elena?" His eyes darted nervously. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Cut the act," I snapped, pulling out Yasmin's phone. "I've seen the messages. I know you were hired to set me up. Tell me the truth or I'll go to the police." Tom's face paled, and he glanced around as if searching for an escape route. Finally, he exhaled sharply. "Fine," he muttered. "She paid me to follow you, take photos, and make them look incriminating. I didn't want to, but she offered a lot of money." "Why?" I demanded. "Why would she do this?" He shrugged helplessly. "She said you weren't good enough for Yasmin, that she deserved someone wealthier." The weight of his words hit me like a punch to the gut. Elena had always been distant toward me, but this was calculated malice. I stepped back, my fists clenched. "You'd better hope the police go easy on you," I said coldly, walking away. The truth was out, but the battle had only just begun. The revelation about Elena burned in my mind as I dialed the police station. My bruises still ached, but the rage boiling within me dulled the pain. I recounted the assault and hinted at the conspiracy, careful not to give too much away until I had all the evidence. The officer promised to investigate, but I knew I couldn't rely solely on them. I had to take matters into my own hands. That evening, I sat at my desk, staring at a flickering candle. The power had gone out in a neighborhood-wide outage, leaving my apartment eerily silent. I had copied the incriminating messages from Yasmin's phone onto a flash drive and was piecing together the next step. The knock at the door startled me so badly I almost tipped the candle over. When I opened it, Yasmin stood there, drenched from the sudden downpour outside. Her eyes were red-rimmed, and she clutched her coat tightly around her. "Joseph," she whispered, "please, can we talk?" I hesitated, the memory of her family's fists fresh in my mind. "Why are you here?" "I need to know the truth," she said, stepping inside uninvited. I closed the door and turned to her, my chest tightening. "The truth? You believed a lie without even asking me. Why now?" She flinched at my words, but her voice grew firmer. "Because something doesn't feel right. My mom's been acting strange, and I overheard her talking to someone about securing the deal." "What deal, Joseph? What's going on?" Her confusion seemed genuine, but I wasn't ready to let my guard down. I grabbed the flash drive from the desk and held it up. "This," I said, my voice icy, "is proof that your mother orchestrated everything. The photos, the lies, all of it. She wanted to destroy us." Yasmin's face crumpled, and she sank onto the couch. No, that can't be. "My mom wouldn't she?" I interrupted, my tone cutting. "Think about it, Yasmin. You've always told me she wanted you to marry someone richer, someone more worthy." She buried her face in her hands, her shoulders shaking. For a moment, I felt a pang of sympathy, but I pushed it aside. "Yasmin," I said, my voice softer now, "I need to know if you're with me or against me, because I'm not stopping until I clear my name." She looked up, tears streaming down her face. Hell no. I need time to process this." "You don't have time," I said sharply. "Your family attacked me. I've already reported them to the police. Things are about to get ugly." Her eyes widened. "You reported them?" "Yes," I said firmly. "And I'm going to make sure your mother pays for what she's done." The weight of my words hung in the air as Yasmin stood, her face a mask of turmoil. I need to go," she stammered, heading for the door. As she left, I locked the door behind her, my resolve hardening. The tables were turning, and I wouldn't stop until I had justice. I was in the middle of reviewing the legal documents the police had sent over when my phone buzzed on the table. "Joseph, please," Yasmin's voice cracked, filled with desperation. "I need to see you, just one last time." I closed my eyes and exhaled sharply. "Why? So you can try to convince me to drop the charges?" "No," she said quickly. "It's not like that. I need to explain. Please." Her trembling voice triggered a flicker of curiosity. Was she finally realizing the depth of her family's betrayal? Against my better judgment, I agreed to meet her in the cafe near my apartment. The rain had eased by the time I arrived, but the sky was still heavy with storm clouds. Yasmin was already there, sitting in a corner booth, her hands nervously clutching a napkin. As I approached, she looked up, her eyes swollen and red. "Thank you for coming," she whispered as I slid into the seat opposite her. "Make it quick," I said, my tone cold. "I don't have time for games." She flinched but nodded. Joseph, I know what my family did was unforgivable, but I wasn't part of it. I swear, I didn't know what my mother was planning until I overheard her. By then, it was too late. Tears filled her eyes, spilling onto her cheeks. I was scared. My mother, she's manipulative, Joseph. She's always controlled everything in my life, I thought. She broke off, taking a shaky breath. You thought I was a liar, I finished for her. I was wrong, she admitted, her voice barely audible. I know that now, please, Joseph, I'm begging you. Don't let this destroy us. I'll testify against them if I have to. Just don't give up on me. Her words hung in the air like a fragile thread. For a moment, I saw the woman I had fallen in love with, the one who used to laugh at my bad jokes and dream about our future together. But that image was clouded by her betrayal, by the bruises on my body and the shattered trust between us. You don't get it, do you? I said, leaning forward. This isn't just about us. Your family didn't just hurt me. They tried to ruin me, and you let them. I can't just forgive that, Yasmin. Not now. She sobbed into her hands, her shoulders shaking. I'll do anything to fix this, she choked out. I stood my chair scraping against the floor. Then start by fixing yourself, because I'm done being the victim. Without another word, I turned and walked out into the rain. The courtroom was stifling, the air heavy with tension as the judge's gavel struck the wooden block. My chest tightened as the trial began, but it wasn't fear coursing through me. It was anticipation. Today was the day Yasmin's family would face the consequences of their actions. The prosecutors stood tall, presenting evidence with precision. The intercepted messages between Yasmin's mother and the hired photographer illuminated the conspiracy with damning clarity. Pictures of my injuries were displayed on the projector, followed by a recording of my panicked 911 call that night. I kept my gaze steady, even as Yasmin's father glared at me from the defendant's table. Yasmin sat in the gallery, her face pale, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. She had testified earlier that week, condemning her family's actions and admitting her role in the fallout. Her voice had cracked as she told the court she had been manipulated, but the damage was done. When the defense began its cross-examination, they made one final attempt to discredit me. Mr. Palmer, the lawyer sneered, "Isn't it true that you refused every offer of reconciliation from this family?" "Yes," I replied evenly, "because justice is not something you negotiate." The statement hung in the air, sharp and cutting. As the proceedings drew to a close, the judge called for a recess before delivering the verdict. I stepped outside the courtroom, the cool breeze a welcome relief from the oppressive atmosphere inside. Yasmin followed me, her heels clicking softly against the tiled floor. "Joseph," she called, her voice trembling, "can we talk?" I turned to face her, my expression guarded. What is there left to say? "I'm sorry," she began, her eyes searching mine. "For everything. I know I've said it 100 times, but I need you to believe me. I was weak, and I didn't stand up for you when it mattered most. That's on me." Her sincerity was undeniable, but so was the weight of her betrayal. I shook my head. "It's too late, Yasmin. You should have trusted me, not them. If you had, none of this would have happened." Tears welled in her eyes, but she didn't argue. Instead, she handed me an envelope. "I wrote this for you. It explains everything I couldn't say before." I hesitated, then took the envelope. Before I could respond, a clerk announced that the court was reconvening. We returned to the courtroom, where the judge's stern gaze swept over everyone present. After reviewing all evidence and testimony, he began, "This court finds the defendants guilty of aggravated assault and conspiracy. Sentencing will follow next week." Relief washed over me, but it was bittersweet. The verdict couldn't erase the pain or restore what I had lost. As I left the courthouse, I opened Yasmin's letter, bracing myself for its contents. Inside, she revealed a chilling truth. Her mother hadn't acted alone. A shadowy figure had funded the entire scheme. A wealthy businessman Yasmin had once been pressured to marry. He had orchestrated everything to sabotage our relationship, ensuring Yasmin would be forced back into his orbit. Trust shattered, justice served, but the price of betrayal was far greater than I had imagined.
Friends, what do you think of this story? Write your opinion in the comments. Would you like more stories? Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell button so you don't miss any videos. See you tomorrow.